Hello, beautiful sisters. Hello, beautiful friends. Welcome back to the Noble Mother podcast. I am here today with Morgan Blackman, who is a holistic wealth coach, a writer, and speaker who helps soul conscious women confidently build wealth that's in alignment with their values, vision, and energetic design. Her signature approach blends spiritual insight, wellness practices, and practical financial strategy, empowering clients to reach higher forms of alignment while healing from the emotional blocks that often stand in the way of the abundance that gets them there. A self taught investor with 7 years of experience, 7+ years, Morgan brings both grounded strategy and intuitive insight to the table. She's also certified as a trauma of money facilitator and is currently completing her master's in counseling psychology at Yorkville University, deepening her ability to support clients through fear, guilt, and limiting beliefs around money and resourcefulness. She's been featured in Refinery 29, Thrive Global, Medium, and Lowest Rates. She's partnered with brands like Neo Financial and Four Sigmatic to advocate for holistic, trauma informed financial wellness. When she's not coaching, she's traveling the world, diving into consciousness, expanding reads, writing poetry and books, spending time with her loved ones. Her life and business are guided by a commitment to integrity, personal growth, and collective wealth for all. Welcome, Morgan.
Thank you. That was a very thorough introduction. Thank you for sharing all of that.
Mm.
It's a
Well,
nice
yeah, talk us
here to you
through.
sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, integrating it, eh? It's
Yeah,
cool.
for sure.
I think sometimes we need that reflection back.
We do, yeah. I'm like, wow, this is a nice way to kind of celebrate how far I've come. And you don't often do
Yeah.
that. So, yeah, thank you.
Do you want to tell, the soul sisters, the women, those that are feeling called to hear this episode, like what brought you into this space? What was your relationship in your life like growing up in your family dynamics with money?
Oh, yeah. So I grew up in Brampton, Ontario, middle class family. Like my parents both had two jobs. Actually, I would say my dad has been very entrepreneurial his whole life. Sort of like the roles were reversed. So he was an accountant and like realtor, um, like that self-employed income, sort of making money on his own terms, working from home. And my mom, she started off as like a travel agent. So which actually ends up becoming the two things that I love the most as an adult, being an entrepreneur and also loving to travel. Yeah, and so I mean, when it comes to money, I feel like I have two conflicting money stories because one of them was the fact that I I could kind of ask for whatever I wanted and I would get it, especially up until a point where I was more dependent on my parents for my livelihood and the things that I wanted. I got the gifts that I wanted under the Christmas tree each year and we would take trips every other year. So I felt very safe and like resourced in those ways. But on the flip side, and it wasn't only until I got a little bit older and I was able to understand money and what it was, and that my parents had to go and work for money in order to to sustain us, there was a lot of conflict and there was a lot of arguments. And so eventually, as I got older, I realized that money also was a source of conflict and stress, not only for my parents, but for people, right? So kind of that duality. And it wasn't until I sort of got my first job at 16 where I started to really have more agency around like how I made my money and also what I did with it. And it was interesting that, I feel like there's that common understanding that you're supposed to save. It's like the right thing to do. Um, and I always say it's so funny because at the end of the year, my dad being an accountant, he would look at how I made, maybe at Tim Hortons. So that was my first job at 16. And like for a good 2, 3 years working there, like I would make 20 grand for the year and I saved none of it. Like $0. Like I just spent it all on, whatever a girl would spend her money on, makeup and clothes and food. Yeah. And so at some point, I think moving into university was when I started to realize, oh, like now I'm starting to have credit cards and taking on debt, student loans. And at some point, like I will now have a greater responsibility to pay this back, like money that's not really mine. Um, but yeah, like early childhood stuff. That's kind of my earliest experiences with money
Mm.
and some of the stories that I sort of had rooted
Yeah,
into
did
my
your dad ever
consciousness.
like go into like, hey, like, so this is how much you're bringing home from Tim Hortons. This is what you could do with it? Like, were those conversations kind of had?
No,
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 okay.
not at all. That's the ironic part. It's like they were like, "Oh, you should save." Like there's a lot of shame. Like you made 20,000. What did you do with it? But it wasn't like, "Here, like put your money in a savings account and like what type of savings account and like invest it." Like, my parents are immigrants to this country. So I think the most that they understood about building wealth was get a good education, get a good job, buy a home. And like real estate is a good investment, right? It's a different type of like asset.
Yeah.
But obviously, like you're not gonna tell a 16-year-old. I mean, they could have maybe put some money away to like buy a home one day, but like it wasn't that future forward. It was very like in the now, like you could be saving a little bit of that. And I talk about that a lot when it comes to people's motivations in finances and when it comes to saving. Like a lot of people maybe don't make certain strides with their finances because they don't understand the why. Like telling a 16-year-old to save without the why, like without any motivation, is not going to,
Hmm.
motivate me to make changes. So it was like, yeah, like I should save, but like, what am I saving for? I didn't realize, like, yeah, I could save for university so that by the end of the fourth year, like I'll have enough money to pay it off. Like it wasn't, those in-depth discussions weren't happening.
And like you said,
It was
maybe
more
your
so just like,
parents weren't setting up high interest savings accounts either, or didn't know
no,
that.
they weren't
I
themselves.
don't think many
No,
people do know that. I think it's a small group of people, unless you actually actively learn it, because everyone's in the illusion.
right.
Unless
Everyone's just,
in the,
playing the same game. Exactly.
yeah, yeah. So what happened after university then? Or like what,
So actually, German University
yeah.
is where everything happened.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
um, so this is why the mindset piece, the holistic piece, is so important, and why I call myself a holistic wealth coach. Because I didn't start off with making like just like randomly just making great financial changes and starting to invest out of nowhere. Like a lot of that came from my own sort of spiritual awakening
Hmm.
that happened, I would say like second year. I started, well, university years were like the first years that I ever started dating. So
Hmm.
that kind of became the catalyst. I started dealing with men and this one specific guy, it turned into this really toxic, like 3 year situationship. And I learned a lot about myself. The what I thought was me loving myself was really um lacking in boundaries
Hmm.
and standing in my own power and um even just understanding or like knowing what healthy love looks like, right? So, and of course going back to like my family dynamic as childhood, seeing a lot of conflict, it was something that I knew that didn't feel good, but that was what was familiar. So
Yeah.
anyways, as I'm navigating that toxic situationship, I'm starting to see a lot of signs from the universe. Um, and I'm also making a lot of shifts personally with my health. So my diet, going to the gym. That was the first time I ever probably joined a gym was on campus. And that was where I learned about yoga and meditation and the mind and the body connection. Um, Specifically the spiritual side of things. I had a friend actually who was like really into crystals. She was a bit ahead of me in like the spiritual, on her spiritual path. And I started seeing 1111 a lot, and like especially that second year. And I always remember like growing up, like, oh, 1111, make a wish. Like there's always that saying. And for some reason, I just got really curious. And this is where like my Gemini rising kind of comes in. Now I'm like really appreciating it. And I was like, 1111, like I just Googled it. I'm like, 1111, I keep seeing it. Make a wish. And then I saw this article on Doreen Virtue, which I'm pretty sure you maybe have heard of her,
I
right?
haven't heard of her, but I
Um,
guess I need to.
no, oh,
No.
she's like
Is she a medium, a
she's
psychic
a
reader?
converted,
No.
yeah, she was like a psychic, like intuitive, and she was really big on teaching people about angel numbers. And
Okay.
it's funny because she eventually shifted into like I think she reverted back to being a Christian and she kind of like demonized the new
Oh,
age kind
interesting.
of
Which is what's
space.
happening kind of now. I feel
I think
like,
it's the same thing. I
in
think
some
she's still just like Christian.
respects. Isn't
I
that
know. Yeah, I
wild? I
think she
mean,
just like
things
totally threw
cycle,
it out the
right?
way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. If you search her up, I think she's still in like the Christian camp and like demonized,
Okay.
like threw that
Okay.
whole life away. But like she built such a huge platform because I feel like if you still search up angel numbers, you will see like SEO wise, like
Interesting.
she's usually like one of the top few articles on the first page of a
Okay.
search. So, anyways, got into it 11:11, and it's like, oh, these are like signs from like your angels, and it was such a comforting message to receive during a time where like I didn't understand what was happening in this situation, why someone would treat me this
Mm,
way,
mm.
like you know, yeah, just trying to understand my, like my own version of femininity and power and reclaiming it. And it was like, yeah, like you'll get through this and we want the best for you. And so, yeah, it was like all of that was happening in like 1 year. It
Wow.
was a lot, but I took it with stride, and I think that was coming out of that. That was when I really started to build rituals and like routines around my well-being. So like ensuring that like I'm meditating and like having some form of connection with the divine, to kind of ground me and to root me and remember like I like this path is built for me and I'm on the right path and getting that confirmation whenever I need it, whatever I'm looking for it and seeking it. And so with all these mindset shifts over time, I think I was eventually in this space, third year, where my roommate started talking about like how she was seeing a financial advisor. And I feel like at this point, like I was getting like every other area of my life in shape. At this point, I probably like left the toxic relationship. Um, I'm like the healthiest I've ever felt in terms of like my diet. I experimented with being vegan and vegetarian. I'm going to the gym. I'm steeping myself in these mindfulness rituals. And I'm like, you know what? I feel like I'm ready to now tackle money. Like, I feel like I have this sort of poverty mindset where it's like I never was born into wealth or came from it. And I'm probably not going to be able to access that at some point in my life. Like, like I'll get a decent job and whatever, take the conventional path that most people take. But like, I don't see myself being absorbently rich or what even is that, right? Like, how do you even leave
Yeah.
behind a legacy?
Yeah.
And so I felt like, yeah, like I don't want to be like this broke bitch anymore. I want to be rich as fuck. Like the book that you were talking about earlier before we actually started recording. And yeah, so when my friend was talking about, yeah, like I'm seeing a financial advisor and like you literally just like you put your money into this sort of vehicle and this money appreciates over time through interest working on its interest. And I was like, I'm in love with this idea. Like whatever you're doing, I want to do it because like this sounds like this is the pathway to wealth
Also, can I just
that a lot
congratulate
of us
both of you for being in third or fourth
I
year and doing those things? Like that's really evolved and really
yeah,
beautiful to share because I actually can't relate. I just was so disembodied through my university career and through many parts of my 20s.
right.
So well done for for those
Yeah.
codes to
Thank
drop in and for
you.
those things to really be magnetized to you at an age where there's a lot, with between substances and debt and other sorts of people in university institutions that come from a lot of wealth or whatever that looks like,
Yeah.
there's a lot going down in those places.
Yeah, you're definitely navigating, yeah, so many different things. I feel like even for me, like that sense of independence, I'm away from home, like I finally get to be me, and like what does that look like? And
Mm.
you're discovering yourself for sure. So I always say, like, I'm still friends with that same woman today. We actually went to middle school together, disconnected in high
Oh,
school, and like reunited in
cool.
university. And I thank her all the time. I'm like, her name's Alexis. Like, I'm like, Alexis, I've been on like a few podcasts this year, and every time I'm on a podcast, I always have to mention you because if it wasn't for you, like not to say that I wouldn't be investing or wouldn't, be doing what I'm doing, but I don't know if the timeline would have been the same. Maybe it would have been like 5 years out or 10 years,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
like you said, it wouldn't have been as early as it was if it wasn't for her. And then I also have to thank the guy she was dating at the time because he was the one that was kind of putting her on. So kind of like right
Interesting.
place at the right time. I was
Hmm.
very fortunate to have someone that opened up that conversation and made it a reality. I talk about expanders too because she's also a Black woman. So I think seeing someone that looks like me
Mm.
doing it, I was like, if you could do this, I could do this too. That was
Mhm.
very important. And I really needed that.
Yeah, for sure. I think, and that's the mirroring, right? Like we need those. that do mirror our experiences and our life and our uh, authenticity, our heritage to mirror that to allow us to be like, oh, okay. And sometimes for some of us even to draw back and to reconnect and realign. So that's really neat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very helpful. I
So what
to
happened?
this
Like, did
day.
you get a financial advisor? And
So I kind of went the route where I was like, I want to understand a little bit more of this myself before I even go to one. Still never really been because I
okay, so you're
eventually
your
just
own.
like, yeah, I kind of just went the self-taught route. Like after that, I kind of just did my own research, went to Google. Like AI wasn't even around at the time. Probably would have been even much more helpful. But yeah, Google, I started reading books. That would have been around the time that I read my first finance book ever, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and like
Hmm.
just starting to like embody these different mindsets and like opening myself up to other people's life experiences that have been able to build wealth that maybe didn't come from wealth or
Hmm.
like did and just were able to build it for themselves and how they did it. And even reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, one of the key things that he always mentioned was his rich dad was very entrepreneurial. So it's, I kind of felt like at some point I would want to create something for myself one day and not just for the money, but also like creating an impact in a way that feels good to me. Um, yeah, and so yeah, that's kind of how I eventually, just researching a lot. I would say timeline wise, by the time she told me about it, I would give myself maybe like another 6 months of like really like diving into books, having more conversations with her, with other people. And I eventually decided to save up $5,000, which is
That's
rare
amazing.
because at that point I wasn't really saving, but in the motivation to invest
Hmm.
made me want to save. And that's why I say like that why there has to be a motivating factor or you're not going to do it. And I
Yeah.
was like, if I can buy back my time and work less, I'm going to figure out how to save. And so save like $5,000, which is a lot. You don't have to save that much to invest. But I was just more so in the camp of like the more I put in, the more I'll get back. So $5,000, I put it into a mix of different investment products, mutual funds, which you've probably heard that term,
Hmm.
and individual stocks as well. Around that time, actually, Canada was about to legalize marijuana. And so that's an important thing when you're investing to keep ahead of trends and like what's coming. And so I was like, oh, this is going to be good. Like, I feel like there's a lot of money to be made in this area. Even, I personally don't really like smoke marijuana or anything, but I was like, at that time, it wasn't really about values or integrity. It was like,
No,
whatever's going
okay.
to make
Yeah, you
money,
were yeah. Well,
you
at that
know,
point you were dipping your toe really in the way people probably do,
supposed
which
to.
is what's the trend. It's probably like when
Right.
people
What's the
bought
trend?
bought Apple. I'm sure there's a lot around
Right.
the iPhone that doesn't serve people, but if people invested in Apple,
Invest in it.
um,
Exactly. Or
then
Amazon.
they've
Yeah.
had that
Like somebody's,
return. Like it's a different
yeah.
vibration as you move through it. And you know what? I think
Yeah.
money is one of those things where like I have a girlfriend that she uses this term wash. Like, so like, when
Mm,
sometimes you get a big amount to you or there's a bill or something, it's like that money needed to be washed in that way to that particular person or that particular instance
that time. Yes.
because of that energy. Maybe that contract, a past life contract or a current contract.
Right.
And that's the way, it's to happen.
Right.
Which I find interesting.
Yeah. But like eventually, like I come full, well, not really full circle, but well, yeah, I guess full circle because now I really talk about ethical investing and like investing with integrity and alignment with your values. So it's like I needed to start somewhere, and eventually
Yeah.
evolve over time and come home to like marrying the two things that are important to me, building wealth, but also like from a spiritual mindfulness sort of angle and approach. But yeah, so I put the $5,000 in, and by like I would say within a year, I was able to double that $5,000 into 10. And so that completely like mind blown as to like how easy, like we talk about like magic and like woo and coming from like this the spiritual angle and lens, it's like to just make money out of thin air. Like I didn't have to do anything extra. I worked hard for the 5,000, yes, but it's like finally getting to see passive income like work for me in reality and like just double like this extra 5,000
Yeah.
from just supporting companies and like investing in other people's visions. Like this is such a magical concept, and
Yeah.
I'm doing it right. So yeah, that is when everything shifted, and I eventually was like, I want to. So look, alongside me doing this, I'm also like, okay, well, I have a lot of debt too because I have student loans and car loans. I'm like, I need to pay down this debt so I can put more of that towards my investment and save more, put some more money in an emergency fund. So it really helped me to get my financial shit together. And I would say like 2 to 3 years of like consistently investing now because I wanted to make sure this isn't like a one-off, or occurrence. I'm
Mhm.
seeing significant returns over time. Then I got to a point where after graduating, I'm working for a not-for-profit. I'm doing like this admin role, and it started to like not feel empowering, and I could be doing more with like what I knew, my life experiences, and something that's always been important to me is advocating for women, right? Like just growing up, just seeing a lot of women in my family go through domestic abuse or IPV, and um, even just the idea that women feel like they're not supposed to be good with money, like all these myths. And I was like, no, like here I am, a Black woman, um, rewriting my story, and I want to help empower other women to do the same. To like really have a healthy relationship with their money, and not even just money, but learning how to be be resourced
Mhm.
and feel resourceful and just feel abundant, right? So, and that's how I became a coach. I'm just trying to start educating and empowering women around it.
Wow. What's one of your do you have continual clients? What's sort of like a really legacy story for you where you worked with, you know, a black woman or like, a community member where you really like you felt that legacy shift and like what your
Ooh,
wisdom or your medicine really provided such different
yeah.
outcomes for their life.
Yeah, every woman I've created, I feel like I've created some sort of a legacy for them in their own way. I've had women who were maybe codependent on a toxic partner and being able to
Mm.
really heal their relationship with money, break those ties and go out there and, pack up and move to a different city and, really live life on their own terms. I've had women who have, left jobs that were not serving them, even if they were making lots of money, top serving roles and companies, and, breaking that off to create a business, something of their own, where they can leave that legacy and helping others in the same way that I am. Especially, yes, when I get to deal with Black women, um, it's yeah, amazing to see, especially our lineage and or like kind of collective sort of journey of having to have been displaced from one continent to another, slavery, etc., and like having been, suppressed in the ways in which we were able to build abundance for ourselves. And now seeing them like start those businesses, reclaim income in a way where they can now, move out of debt and into savings and abundance and having more than what they need. Yeah, it's beautiful. And then also when I have clients, it's also a lot of the work or the offers that I create, I'm never the type of coach that's like, okay, how can I keep people coming back?
Mm.
And that's probably does a disservice to me within like a capitalistic lens because it's, always about like profit and continuously growing. But I believe in like, if you are investing energetically, like time and money into me, I want to teach you everything you need to know and that you never have to come back to me. Like, this is like lifetime knowledge that not only will benefit you, but also what now you can pass down to your children. And hopefully
Mm.
your children will do the same for their children. And yeah, like, eventually like building generational wealth. So everything that I do, yeah, for
Wow.
myself and for any of the clients that come through my doors, it's definitely to build a legacy in whatever way that looks like to you.
That's really important. It's really important to have
Yeah.
women running businesses in this space and talking about it. And also that you're in Canada, you're in Ontario, which is really helpful.
I am,
Also,
yes.
right? I mean, sometimes we always find people that are, which is okay. Like, you can have those connections, but it is really nice to have someone like,
Right.
you know, on the ground
Yeah,
and
it's,
here.
it's it's interesting too. Like I don't specifically call myself like a, Canadian wealth coach. I'm very just much like, in this digital world and era, it's
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
whoever can find me. But yeah, it is interesting. Like I think most clients are actually from the States. have as much
Wow.
people, yeah, from Canada. I'm not sure why that
Well, this is
is
a call
because they
out
have
though
it's
for those women in
like
Canada.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like marketing maybe the way that I market maybe doesn't just penetrate the Canadian market in the way that maybe people who are specifically penetrating the Canadian market do. Like, because I've been on like the Trauma of Money program, for example, that you mentioned in my bio. Chantel Chapman, she's a Canadian woman who leads that program. And when I first kind of started off on my financial wellness journey too, there was a podcast I used to tune into. Her name is Jessica Morehouse, and it's amazing to see like how far they both come because Jessica just launched a book recently this year. I'm forgetting what the title is. I need to do it justice, but maybe you can put it in the show notes. I'm more than happy to support her.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's also a Canadian woman, and she also motivated me in like the early stages of my financial journey as well. So I feel like maybe people who and they're very um, specific about like being in the Canadian market and supporting Canadian women or so I don't know. I'm not sure why that is. It just is the way that it is. But
Yeah. I
yeah, more
mean,
than happy to have more Canadian clients.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, there's like you said in the digital age, it's really I think it's really the soul connection, like what the frequency is,
Right.
right? If somebody
Yeah,
wants to work with
that's what
you.
matters
But
most.
yeah.
Yeah. Had a few UK clients as well too. So I'm just like whoever needs my help, I'm here for you. And that's the beauty in like, I guess, dealing with money, because some people may say, oh, well, like how do you know to teach people certain aspects of money if they're in a different location? And it's like, I mean, money is kind of like a language. Like at the end of the day, the same principles apply.
Yeah.
It's just like some of the products might just be labeled something different. So, like here we have RSPs and TFSAs, and in the States they have like a Roth IRA and 401k. Like it's just labeled differently, but it's the same concept.
Yeah.
And so I love that. Like I could still help as many people as I want. You might just have to do a bit more research, in terms of like certain products specific to your country, but same principles apply.
Yeah, so I'm okay. I'm curious if there is a company or something sort of forward thinking or someone's feeling aligned and say they've come into some inheritance or they do have some savings. Like would they then could they contact you and you could line up how you could invest in some of those aspects? Um
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for sure. Like usually, okay, if someone just had like a lump sum of money, whether from an inheritance or like they won the lottery, whatever the case may be, usually I would say let's open up a savings account, a high interest savings account, right? Let's put your money aside. Don't just spend it all right away. Let's kind of take some time to debrief, figure out like what it is that you want from your life that's also going to last you because a lot of people, especially with like inheritances, especially if you're young and you don't have as much financial knowledge or good money habits practices
mhm.
as well. Like if you're doing the lottery, a lot of these people end up blowing it within a
Yeah,
short
they
period of
can't
time.
hold it.
So it's like yeah, they can't hold it. So it's like let's get comfortable with like learning how to hold money, what that looks like, what that feels like, put that in a high interest savings account. Obviously, you want to pay off any debt, especially the high interest debt, like credit cards, maybe it's car loans, student loans, which are usually lowered interest rates. And then the last stage of the financial wellness journey or the wealth building journey is investing. Like you have to have your money in something that's appreciating
Mhm.
over time for you. And that doesn't require like additional time and energy or labor put into it. So, stock market, real estate, um, you could like in a risk averse way also experiment and dabble with like crypto. That's like a newer sort of investment industry that's
Mhm.
still kind of, it's kind of like in this baby toddler stage. I don't really know where it's going to be a few years from now, but art, like some people don't even realize you can invest in art, antiques, collectibles. Like there's so many different ways to put your money into different investment vehicles that will grow over time for you.
And I feel
So
like gold is one that's coming back too right
gold,
now.
yes, precious metals. Yes, I
Yeah.
forgot to mention that. Yes, gold. And even right now in this, day and age where we're seeing like AI, we're kind of going through this like industrial revolution. Like we're living through it in real time,
Hmm.
right? this like fourth like industrial revolution, late stage capitalism, and so you also want to diversify. That's like a very popular rule in when it comes to investing is like don't have all your eggs in one basket, have your money in different things. So whether it's like investing in the stock market, like don't invest in all tech stocks because if shit goes left with tech, like, then all your money is gonna go down the drain. So like have a little bit of money in like um I don't know, like consumables or environmental sort of products, food, agriculture, etc., precious metals. So, yeah, and gold is one of those things where usually when the market isn't doing so well, people revert to investing in gold because it's sort of like a backup. Like if the market were to crash, we'd go back to sort of like some gold standard. Or it could go the other way in crypto. Like we don't really know yet, right? We're living in like this very sort of um I don't know what's the word, sort of like unpredictable time, right?
It's a mixed bag of energies, which people get to
It's a
decide,
mixed bag for sure.
where it is they want to align with and
Exactly.
yeah, what
Yeah.
feels resonant to them.
Right. Because
Yeah.
there's so many different ways, like there's so many different pathways. That's the fun part about having clients and like building wealth because so many different ways that you can do it. And you can do it in a way that feels good to you. And like wealth, it just looks so different. Like for one person, wealth might look like having the mansion and the yachts and throwing
Hmm.
lavish
Yeah.
parties. And to another person, it's like, I just want comfort, security, being able to hop on a plane and go visit my family in another country like every year,
Right.
being able to care for my family,
Mhm.
being able to gift people when I want to, and however I can, giving back to my community. So that's a big thing that I talk about. That's like one of the first things me and my clients go through in any of my offerings, specifically like my private coaching programs, is we look at like your why and also like what's important to you.
Yeah.
What are your values, ensuring that your spending and your wealth blueprint is in alignment to that,
Yeah.
because so often a lot of us are chasing wealth in a way that's copying someone else's blueprint or what society tells us
Absolutely.
it's supposed to look like.
Absolutely.
And that's where the
It's,
disconnect happens. That's when we don't feel good about money because we're we're operating out of comparison or fear, um, and just really wanting approval from others. And that approval has to come from within
yeah.
and from yourself.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. I know what I always find it so interesting how people that are um really unembodied or almost like a lack soul can carry such big wealth.
mm,
I always find that dynamic quite interesting in this realm.
mm, yeah, I've never had anyone kind of like bring that up or talk about that. So I mean, to us, it might look like negative energy or a way of navigating life and using money, but I feel like energy doesn't really like discriminate. Like if it feels good to that
Mm,
person, what they're doing, even though it's bad,
right.
you know what
So
I
doesn't
mean?
that just
Like,
go to show you that the energy around it, like it just can shapeshift,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, like someone can generally think that they're being good, and like that too, like
Right.
good and bad
That's,
is subjective, right? So it's
yeah.
like if they feel like I don't care, like I want to scam people, as a way towards building wealth, and that feels good to them, then like money will support them in that.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
it's a neutral energy. So it's
That's
just, yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's so interesting. I'm only speaking from personal experience because I'm estranged from my father, but my father is a white wealthy man and he gives so much
Right.
to community, but he would see his children like not be able to pay
Mm.
their heat bill or, not be able to
Wow.
buy for their children. So it's just such an
Wow.
interesting energy, to understand and have
Yeah.
dynamics with.
Yeah.
But in
Yeah.
his mind, like you said, like it isn't bad because he would give to others who would need it
He
more
was
than his
thinking, yeah.
children, which really in the
Right.
which we laugh about because we're like, but wait, like no, like it's about your children depending on what your
Right.
values are, right? So,
Exactly.
yeah, I was going to
Yeah.
ask you
Oh.
around the trauma, like the trauma money piece when you talked about that program. What does that look like? Like is
Um,
that yeah, what does that embody? Sort of.
Well, for me, I think trauma, I mean, it's better to define what trauma is. And to me, it's significant negative experience that you've had or a situation that you've been in that hasn't really been integrated and processed in a way where you can still think about that situation or experience without being triggered or feeling unsafe,
Mm,
right? So with trauma, there's this lack of safety that you feel. And it doesn't have to start with money, right? Like a lot of trauma, I mean, a lot of trauma originates from our childhood.
mhm,
And so for me, it's especially when working with clients, is understanding like what your childhood looked like, what are some of the experiences that you had, the stories that you were told about how you're supposed to navigate life and who you're supposed to be. And sometimes trauma can also be built through other experiences as you get older too. Like, for example, with me, when I mentioned like that toxic situationship, like that's another form of trauma, but it doesn't have to
mm,
be with money. And I think the first form of trauma that I have is usually relational, like it shows up in relationships, right? And then it starts to seep into all the different areas of your life, right? Like how you treat yourself when it comes to health um and your money, et cetera, your career. So it's really just doing that unraveling and getting to the root, the core wound. What are
mm,
those core wounds? And eventually finding healing out of them. And so some of the work that I'll do around that is getting people, one, to feel safe, a lot of somatic practices. So we
mhm,
learned a lot of that in the Trauma of Money program, breath, even just being comfortable with being in the body, touching your body. I know for me, sensations, like it was very hard for me to name and label emotions. Even now, sometimes I have to be like, Morgan, like you are like you're actually very uncomfortable in this situation. Like your heart's racing, or you have this weird tingly feeling, or your stomach is like listening to your body.
mhm.
It's very hard for people that have been through trauma because we've learned to kind of just like dissociate and just operate from here and just autopilot, just
Yeah.
just just suppress everything and just keep going, right? Because it's like a survival mechanism. And so really getting people to like come back into their bodies, not fearing those emotions, making peace with those emotions, and then moving forward, writing a new story. So
Mm,
oftentimes we look at limiting beliefs and shifting it to empowering beliefs and making sure that those empowering beliefs are also now rooted in the body
mm.
becomes this like, yeah,
Yeah, it becomes just more of an embodied piece instead of being
piece,
fragmented. Yeah.
fragmented, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So important. So, so
Hmm.
important.
Very.
Mm.
Yeah, and I feel like um I'm trying to think like what are some of the other I think kind of like yeah, like walk through some other examples or exercises I would walk people through when it comes to maybe shifting those beliefs. One thing I really like to do is like a letter to money. That's a great exercise. Maybe I can give your audience,
Yeah.
um, just writing everything out. Because actually, I was talking to someone about this the other day. Is like even when it comes to manifesting and stuff. Once again, like we're all unique, and there are certain um ways of coming home to ourselves that will look different. So for some people, maybe visualizing, is, visualizing either calling something in or letting go of something. So like I've been in therapies where like, we've done like cognitive behavioral therapy where maybe I'm trying to get over, that toxic situation. And it's like walking yourself through like the fire or all the situations that happen with that person, like putting it in a pile and burning it. It's like visual, like there's something about visualizing it that can also help, right? Your mind to kind of like reprogram whatever connection you once had with it. And for some people, maybe it's writing or it's journaling. For some people, maybe it's just being in the present moment and like focusing on the breath and coming back to here and the now, because a lot of the times we're focusing on the past or we're overthinking and thinking about the future, the what ifs that are coming our way. Um, so everyone has their different ways. So like it's very interesting that all the different clients that I have, what kind of works the best for them, and kind of like having to experiment and figure out like what really clicks and help them find, sources of healing.
Yeah, you're sort of stewarding that along the way, which
Mm,
is really important. I think everyone needs, that good steward and that support piece that's well resourced themselves.
mhm.
So good for you,
Yeah,
for living and embodying that and being that so that you can give that, out into the world.
right.
Yeah, really important.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. That is important. You mentioning even just having to be embodied yourself and doing this work.
Yeah.
If you are going to be a teacher or a healer, it's very important that you are, yeah, do not work for yourself.
Yeah, there's a
And
lot
protect
of
that
people
energy too.
that aren't, or that,
Right,
just sort of live in that facade of things. I was
right.
going to ask you, was there a moment, throughout being an entrepreneur as you have this business where, your own doubts, your own sort of journey has crept in to make you think like, oh no, like this isn't possible. And what do you love to resort
Possible.
back to and kind of ground down and know that like
Right.
this is the legacy and what you want to be a part of.
Yeah, I would say all the time, but there's definitely moments, and I feel like I've obviously gotten to a point where I've been able to um master shifting the story, and being self-aware enough to notice, oh, where's this coming from? Where's this thought coming from? Is it mine or is this a past version of me? And or an experience that I'm kind of mirroring that wasn't a recent experience. Um, yeah, like one that I've kind of battled with, I would say. So actually my first year of coaching, that would have been 2021. Um, it went really well. I feel like connecting brands and organizations and really getting my name out there and, having an influx of clients and just creating this really great ecosystem of impact. But I was doing it on social media. So I was doing it on Instagram and I realized that like the way that I was doing it on social media wasn't really authentic to me
Hmm.
because I had like a business coach that was she grew on Instagram, so that was the only way that she knew how to grow her business.
Yeah.
And I remember coming to her in the beginning and saying like, I love blogging, I love writing, I like being on video, but I don't know if Instagram's for me. And she was like, nope, you have to be on Instagram. Like this is the only way to grow. And so that was sort of
I know, and isn't I hear that a
yeah,
lot
it
with
was
coaches, I hear that a lot that's and isn't
yeah,
that
they're like
such a
that limiting belief.
disservice? But sometimes I think that's the stepping
Yes.
stone for you to realize, that's who there might have needed to be a wash of money exchange between the two of you. And you did it and you
Right, between
learned
the
from
two
it,
of us, exactly.
and you
There,
decided
yeah.
what's you and what's not.
Yeah. Then it comes down again to like institutions and society, and like we kind of just fit ourselves into this box and feel like, well, this is how everyone's doing it, so this is the only way, and this is how you have to do it. And so kind of got caught up in that trap. And eventually, so the next year, I ended up taking like a complete career break because I was just energetically burnt out.
Burnt
I
out.
didn't even realize that you could become like I always thought
Oh,
burnout was something that was like physical, like the biz moms. I'm pretty sure you've
well, no,
experienced
but
that
the
at some point,
Instagram, think of how much is sort of siphoning your energy, always needing to be on it
right?
or check it. Like, of course
Yes,
it's literally like a child, but it's not a physical child that's looking at you, also
right.
pouring love heart to heart. Like it's siphoning
Yeah, it's like
energy.
this digital
This
child,
digital
yeah, siphoning your
siphoning
energy.
energy. Yeah,
Right.
100%.
And that was the thing that was so hard for me because I never was on social media before that. Like I was like maybe the odd like Facebook girl like ranting about something. Like that was my way of being an activist or on Tumblr. Like I was always, even if I was on social media, it was like the low key social media
Yeah.
sites. It was never Instagram because I don't know, I never understood like why do I have to show people my life? Like my friends, if they want to know what's happening, we'll just have a phone call. Like
Yeah.
or we'll just meet up. Like, never really understood. And I'm not like, looking down on people or shaming people for liking social media if that's their thing. But it wasn't something that like I liked being on. And I just felt like, well, now I have a business. If this is the only way that people are going to discover me is through being on this platform, then I guess I'll be on this platform. But yeah, it was so hard because it's like I constantly have to be on. My coach was like, you need to be on your stories every day. And like, so I feel like, like it's not like I hate stories. I don't mind going on it once in a while, but to be told like it has to be done
Hmm.
routinely, even when you don't feel like
It's
doing
not even
it. And
authentic.
so not authentic.
Yeah.
And I was like, why? Oh, I feel like, yeah. So I started to like resent my business in a way, um, pulled back. And that was very hard for me. I feel like I attach a lot of my self-worth to success and career.
Hmm.
Like, if I don't have a man or a boyfriend, I'm like, that's okay. It's whatever. It was like, as long as I have something going for me and like people see that. And so, anyways, I was like, you know what? I'm going to challenge myself to like just taking a year off and like doing nothing, do nothing,
Good
because
for
I've always been
you.
the hustle girl, always working, trying to make
Yeah.
money. And I was like, no, I'm gonna do none of that. I have a savings that can hold me. Thank God, for creating that form of like a legacy to like, lean back on. And I think those were the moments like I started to have doubts about like, like can I actually do this business thing? Like if I can't do it outside of like, will I be successful outside of social media? Um, and I had a bit of imposter syndrome too. I think a part of it was like because I was starting to get on so many like large platforms, a part of me was like, am I ready? Do I know enough? Like the
Mm,
Gemini
right.
rising in me is like, do I have all the information? And even though I feel like I am really well equipped, like I even to this day, I'm still reading books. I continue to educate myself, even in this changing world. Like you have to. But a part of me is like, oh, but there's probably someone else who always knows more. And like, what makes me like really credible? Also knowing like I'm self-taught. I didn't really go to school for finance or economics. So it's always been something that's like, do I have the right to do it? And like, you know, um, so, anyways, took the year off, and it was, I said, it was the hardest year and the best year for me at the same time. I've never experienced duality in such a way like that before.
Mm, yeah.
Both worlds at the same time in its depth. But I came out of that. I feel like now coming back into my business, like I'm really only doing this, like this is like full time for me this year, like actually getting back into it, getting back out there, talking to people about wealth and wellness. But I've learned so much from that, about myself, my limits, being like what being authentic looks like, how I want to show up. And I realized like I love collaborating with others, workshops, podcasts, having conversations. I do still like the video for, and that's why I have my YouTube. So, I've really pulled back from Instagram. And even at times I still feel like, oh, maybe I should be on there. Like I'll probably grow more and have more visibility. But it's like, no, I know that like if this falling, this is my path, this is what spirit wants for me. Like I will find a way without having to navigate through those pathways that aren't in alignment.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I love that, Morgan.
Thank you.
Where can the listeners find you on YouTube? I'll put your link in the show notes, but
Yeah, just my name at Morgan Blackman. YouTube
perfect.
slash, I think there's like an at, and then you have to put Morgan Blackman. Yeah,
I'll put
my
it in the show
channel.
notes.
And my Instagram, I'm on there like once in a while. I don't really post much. I just go in there and like rant on stories and like share reels with my friends.
Cool.
But it's at Morgan Blackman too, but with two N's.
Okay.
Someone already took the original Morgan Blackman. Yeah, and then my website is morganblackman.com. So
Yeah,
literally
you have a
just type in my
beautiful
name.
website. Awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, you too.
Good. Thank you. Well, you know what? And I hope to like, relationship wise, where you're like, I think that happens in the feminine. You can be the hustler, but maybe not sink into relationship with like someone else, right? Because there's so much up there. But hopefully in that time to,
Right.
soften into that feminine too and know that like that's such an important part of our lives too, are healthy,
Sure.
dynamic relationships and
I
what,
hope so.
wellness relationships and it all kind
Yeah.
of formats together.
In ways, for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, I've made great strides in that. I think that gap year really helped me with like learning to embody the feminine and rest and just being comfortable with my emotions. I did a lot of
Yeah.
therapy that year, did EMDR. I took mushrooms. So
You did
a lot
ceremony
of
with that. Yeah.
yes, a
Yeah.
sacred ceremony with that. So came to like a lot of revelations about myself. And yeah, I realized I was really playing small. And that when it's time for me to come back out into the
Yeah.
world again, like
Like,
I
and
would
you know what?
definitely do it much differently.
Everyone's credible. It's so funny how we think,
Right. Yeah.
certain aspects of someone makes them more credible. I know it's really, that's also been kind of the illusion placed on people in a lot of ways
Mm,
too. So Think
Right.
of all the most credible investors. I don't know, who was Bernie Madoff? Was he
Um,
credible? Not credible.
no, he definitely
Right.
wasn't.
But
That's
that's what I
true.
mean, right? Think
He's
of
a
how
weirdo.
many people, based off of the initials of his last name would have made him
Right,
credible, but he wasn't credible.
right.
You know?
Like Warren Buffett, like I don't think he went to school for investing. He's like
Right.
one of the greatest investors of all
Resters
time.
of
He
that
was like just self-taught.
That's right.
Warren Buffett, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think
So,
that's a good reminder for everybody,
right,
and wherever you're
for
feeling
sure.
called to, you're being led there for a reason. And I'm so glad you came
Exactly.
on today and you reached out. There's so much in there for everybody. And
Mhm.
yeah, I just really appreciate it. This is something I'm going to hold really dear because everyone has such an interesting money story, and mine isn't the typical one because I grew up with such wealth and actually estranged myself from my family and put a tie and
Right,
put a cut a tie there and have a different dynamic as sorting that through and what that looks like even with my mother and my father and my brother and how it all gets moved, around and the work to do with that. So it's just really, I think, important to have women like you that can stand in that place. And even someone like me doesn't have to have shame coming to work with someone like you with,
no,
these questions or with maybe this inheritance money or with even wanting to
right.
step away from that and learn to save and what my aligned values are. Like there's so many. I'm saying that because that's not normally the story. Normally it's people having to overcome not having it. So it kind of
Right.
they both sort of bridge, one another
Yeah,
in
for
different
sure.
ways. And
For
there's no
sure.
shame in sort of any of it. So I'm so glad you're
Yeah.
out there for
Thank
all the
you.
people. And thanks for
Yes, I'm
coming on
happy to.
today.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, definitely. This is a judgment-free zone, and yeah, more than happy. Hopefully, this resonates with someone from your audience. If you want to have a conversation, definitely they'll know where to find me. And yeah, thanks for giving me the space and opportunity to come and share. And more than happy to come back and talk about money from, still many different angles and aspects that we might not have covered today.
Cool.
But
Okay, well, we'll
yeah,
feel into that for sure.
right.
Thank you, Morgan, for coming on today. Is there anything else on your heart you want to share before we end?
Um, what haven't we touched on? I would just say real quick, if you are someone that, we talk about manifesting and aligning ourselves with maybe a certain frequency of like abundance and having more, I would say the greatest way, energetic hack is to practice gratitude. Like if you're, really
Mm,
steeped in this place of like scarcity and like not enoughness, which I get from like a lot of my clients, like it's just not enough money. And it's like, okay, well, not enough money in comparison to what, right? A lot of the times we're comparing like our wealth to other people's.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but also, yeah, internalizing that and like learning to celebrate ourselves because naturally our mind will look for the things that we don't have. And it really is a skill. And it really takes training your mind to look for the things that you do have
Hmm.
and how you are held, right? Um, as simple as
Yeah.
saying like I have warm hot running water for my shower today, my bath, I have a meal on the
Yeah.
table, like things that literally are attached to your survival,
Hmm.
right? Because there are some people who
Absolutely.
literally don't have that, like they are looking for their next meal,
Yeah.
don't know where they're going to sleep at night.
Yeah.
So I think even when you can there, like yes, times are hard, I could maybe be doing better, but like how is the source holding me right
Yeah.
now in this moment?
Yeah.
Very helpful.
I know gratitude feels so good, but I think that comes with more and more of loving yourself and trusting, you
Mhm.
know, in in that around you too,
Yes,
and depending on your life
trust.
path. But
Yes. Maybe for you, I don't know if it's the same, but I think even becoming an entrepreneur really helped me accelerate mending my relationship with money
Mhm.
maybe sooner than I had to. Because with entrepreneurship, there's this, like the money isn't always consistent. Like it's not like a stable job where you're going to get paid every 2 weeks,
That's
right?
right. Yeah.
And you're creating this thing for yourself. You're not sure how you're going to get clients, when the next client might come,
Yeah.
if business is going to come. You really have to trust. Like my relationship with spirit has like tremendously
Yeah. You know,
been better, as an entrepreneur because you
and
literally have to have so much
it's so
in what you're
funny
doing.
because absolutely in Amanda Francis's book, the one I told you about, Rich as fuck. It's such a weird title. And it's so interesting. Her and even her book title is confronting because it's this white woman with cash all around her.
Right.
It's like, even being a white woman, I was in a circle of women. They're like, this like front cover's like really like confronting.
Kind
Like
of
you almost
cringe.
don't really kind of want to invest in it. But she's actually,
Right.
she's grounded, in terms of what she channels. But she's like, your job isn't to know the how. Your job is just to be in the service
Believe and
and
trust.
legacy of yourself.
Right.
The job isn't to know the how of how it's all going
Yeah.
to play out. And it's true.
No. It's all about, like I said, coming back to like the feeling
Yeah.
of safety and
Yeah.
like everything manifests from that place.
Yeah.
Relationships, your money, your health, like everything from that
It
place.
all
And
it all
just
moves into that.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I love that that's our ending note. I hope you're going to get out and enjoy this beautiful fall day. Is it beautiful where you are? Is the sun out?
So I don't know what the temperature's like, but
I
like there's
know
no rain. I feel like it's been really rainy the last few days. So I'm gonna go for my walk for sure. Just
okay.
dress a little bit warmer. Cool.
Moving
Yeah,
into
definitely
winter
jacket
here.
season.
Yeah, it
Yes.
is.
Winter. Oh my God. Snow like yeah, 2 days ago, like a little bit of like a layer, small layer. I was like, oh God,
Dusting.
are we still even in fall? Is this fall or winter?
They're merging. They're merging.
They're merging. Yes.
Just like all of our insights that are supposed to come to us, I guess, this winter. So thank you, Morgan,
Right.
for coming on.
Thank
I
you.
will put all of Morgan's info in the show notes. You feel called to connect with such a bright light and a source of wisdom, especially around the matrix of currency that is money, but is very in its real form here. And so it's something to be worked with. So I'm so grateful that you came on today. Thank you again. Bye, everybody.
Anytime. Bye.